Hello and welcome back to another episode of Off Defense. And I'm joined in studio this week, not wasting time faffing around, by the guitar. I didn't expect me to introduce an inanimate object, but I'm following on from Travis Chase's jacket the other day. We've replaced the flowers, and you'll soon know why. Because I have a creative panel of people with me today. I'll start from left to right. We've got Mr. Subraj Singh, writer extraordinaire.
Full stop.
No, that's fine. I said the extraordinaire bit. But winner of the Guyana Prize and what was the other award?
A Walter Rodney Creative Writing Award.
The Walter Rodney Creative Writing Award. Miss Dominique Hunter. Have I missed any prizes that you've won? I've seen your name next to lots of things. You want to give us any of the prizes that you've won?
I got the silver medal in 2004 at the Guyana Visual Arts competition. And then I graduated in 2015 last year, right? From the Barbados Community College.
Okay.
First class honors.
Where you were doing?
Fine art, yeah.
Fine art?
I got my degree.
And you said first class honors really quietly,
Yeah.
but let me just echo you. First class honors.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So if you've never known what a fine artist looks like, and it just helps there's a pun today because you look lovely. So
Thank you.
Guyana has a fine artist. And we've got with us as well Mr. Jamal Adams, with a splendid bit of hair. He's outdoing no one here could really compete with that level of awesomeness in a hair. And you're also a writer.
Definitely.
Also Guyanese member of the diaspora. And you brought a few of the books that you've written and published here today. So we are going to have a chat today about, I figured this show should be called State of the Arts. And earlier I hoped everyone was impressed with my pun. See what I did there, but no, it seems a bit too simple. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. State of the Arts. What the conditions are like for artists. I myself am a musician, and I dabble in a bit of a 3D animation and the like, so I feel a part of this community. We can bond today. So what's life like for you as a writer in Guyana, Subraj?
It's tough. It's tough being a writer anywhere, but in Guyana it's especially difficult because there are so many things that hold writers back in this country. There's the copyright issue, there's the lack of training and workshops and classes, the lack of publishing opportunities. There's so much. But strangely, writers are still writing and still producing good literature. So in summing up my opinion of the state of the arts, I'd say basically that the talent is there, but the mechanisms that are necessary to market and promote that talent is completely absent.
Okay, you concur with this. Dominique, what's life like as an artist, as a fine artist, someone that's gone and studied and spent years behind their craft?
It's pretty much the same for visual arts. I think that there are things that are happening, but there's not enough to ensure that artists can maintain or sustain a long-term practice and not have to, get a 9-to-5 job and then try to fit in your creative work at the end of a long day. Also, I think how it's being taught, in schools, in the syllabus definitely needs to be changed, because any sort of creative course is still being taught as a hobby. It's not being taught to be taken seriously. So when students have this impression that, I'm just going to do this because I want an easy A, or I want to make up for my 20 CXC subjects or whatever, the serious discourse that needs to happen doesn't happen. So, you fail your students, you fail when they leave the school setting to go out and interact with people. They don't know how to engage with art or any creative medium. So that is the problem.
And even the people that aren't artists.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll touch on that a little later on, because that sort of speaks to our culture,
right.
Our cultural appreciation, or lack of appreciation for creative output. So Jamal, as the sort of odd one out, but not odd,
Yeah.
right? But odd one out in the sense that you've lived in Guyana,
Yeah.
you were in a group, you used to do some singing,
Yes,
right?
I did, definitely.
You guys see if you can recognize who this singer is. Because if I had some prize, I would do a raffle. But I'm not into raffles. I never win them, ever, ever. If you have a raffle there, well, let's not go into that. People might start sending me raffle tickets. Like, you're gonna win this one. So, having left Guyana, you've been able to get some of your work published. We'll talk about, you could help some of the writers at home. You were talking about self-publishing early on, why it's important, it's easy, and it's a way to get your work out to the public. So what have you found, what's life like as an artist for you, as a writer? Where are you living now?
Between New York and Guyana, I spent 6 months here, 6 months there. But in New York, everything is more accessible. And comparing that to Guyana, there's, as my colleague here was saying, there's not enough resources, and whereby not enough elements that they would present to a kid with these dreams and aspiration. It's still something that is being kept and held back for whatever reason, I can't say.
So, like, give me an idea what was more accessible. Like, what is it that enabled you, after leaving Guyana, to, get to explore your creative potential in a way that you may not have been able to at home?
The accessibility for once, and I work in a diverse terminal. I was telling my friend, Terminal 5 JFK, and I do the shoe shining, and from day to day I will meet with these multi-millionaires, these innovators and these creators, and they will always be like, "Where are you from?" And I'll be like, "I'm from Guyana," and they'd be like, "Ghana?"
Yeah.
I'll be like, "No, not Ghana, Guyana." I'll be like, "I'm from Guyana." "Oh, I spent some time in West Africa." "No, not Ghana." And it hurts me to know that, Guyana has so much potential, and nobody knows of Guyana. Nobody.
Yeah, see, people don't understand. When National Geographic says hidden gem,
yeah, it is hidden.
They mean,
And Guyana is one of the last untouched countries in the world. We have so many natural resources. We are a gifted nation. We are a rich nation. We are a wealthy nation.
So you started talking about how you think if perhaps there was, and tell me if I'm misreading here, but perhaps creativity or creative people as well could be part of that drive to put Guyana on the map.
Yes.
Because, I don't know if anyone knew where Jamaica was before Bob Marley. There are a lot more people that wouldn't know where Jamaica was before Bob Marley.
Yeah.
So, moving to this idea of the cultural, I like that you brought that out. Maybe you want to start on this one. But the floor is always open. Crosstalk rules in effect, right? But let's take a look at culture and what Guyanese are like, what our brothers and sisters walking the street are like. And typically, tell me if I'm wrong, but the average man in the street doesn't really have this sense of appreciation for art as we may find in a country, even just next door in, say, Suriname. He doesn't have the same appreciation for literature. Is it something that has been caused by a lack of investment in the arts? Is it that people we're just different in Guyana? We're just not interested in those things? Are things lacking in schools to help us? Like, the floor is open.
I think it's because the public is not really taught, about the importance of arts. A lot of people don't know the importance and the crucialness of arts. If you look at everything that's trending, even in the fashion industry today, it's stuff that was created decades ago, by artists. The clothing that is being worn today, some of the music that is being created. And that's because, they were taught the importance of preserving art and, allowing art to evolve. And that's what's wrong. And that's what's lacking here in Guyana. The kids, because everything starts from the ground up. So you have to look at the education and the information that's being fed to the kids. They're not taught the importance of preserving arts. So that's why when they get older, they're not taking it serious. You know, as she rightfully said earlier, there's no way that, you know, we can actually say, you know what, we're gonna deal with writing only and forget about a 9 to 5. They're not making certain things available like that, you know, certain avenue whereby we could just not look at it as a hobby alone and look at it more as a career. And that's why it's not being taken serious.
Okay.
You know?
But I mean, well, in my point of view, it wasn't always like that, because Guyana was once at the helm of creative arts in the region. You know, we launched Card Festival, the first ever Card Festival was held right here. And I think somewhere along the line, we just lost track of the vision, you know. And it's sort of like a catch-22, because, you know, he was talking about teaching the children. But what's happening now is that you have these very young, mostly untrained teachers that really haven't been exposed to arts. And the government or the ministry or whoever's in charge of investing, you know, the sort of tools that they need to invest for these teachers, they haven't been doing it. So you have a lot of
in terms of scholarships and the like,
right,
to
they need to be
these people.
experienced.
Yeah.
You can't just go to the, I mean, I'm not knocking the training college, but it's
No,
not
let
enough.
us be honest here. This is what we need. We need honest conversation. Talk your story.
In my opinion, the training college is not enough. Getting a degree at a university is not enough. You need to be exposed. You need to know what's going on in the region. Exactly.
Work.
So what end up happening is that, you know, students are being taught the same sort of material over and over for decades. The material has changed. We have evolved. The technology is not the same anymore. So you need to change the syllabus to cater to that. And that's what I feel like we haven't been doing. So you have places like Trinidad and Jamaica and the Bahamas and even Barbados. I mean, they're so tiny, but they're leaps and bounds ahead of us.
Way ahead of us.
And they have
reality.
nothing. They have, compared to us, I don't want to make it seem bad, but in terms of natural resources, human resources, there are like a speck on the radar, you know, and we have so much more, and so much talent and creativity comes out of Guyana. I mean, we have Eddie Grant and, you know, all these famous writers.
But that's the other thing. Most people say, like, yeah, Eddie Grant came from Guyana, but who else do we reference that's been in the last 4 decades, or you know what I mean, or 3 decades?
J.L. Adams.
J.L. Adams.
Yeah.
But I mean, for creative visual artists, I can say, you know, Stanley Greaves, Carl Anderson, Philip Moore, Burnett Bassad, Betsy Karim. I mean, the list can go on and on.
But
the
these
problem
people being
is
elevated to the status in society where the average man on the street knows these people's names.
But you have to look at the breakdown. Why is it that only certain people know about, you know, these persons, and it comes off as being elitist, but it's really not. You know, the material isn't reaching the general public. Okay. They're filtering out all these things in the educational system. They're being taught European history and American history, but where is our history? They try to squeeze in Caribbean art history at the very end of the last semester, and it's not fair.
And even something that's more local.
Right, because you can ask an American about Caribbean culture, they have no idea outside of Bob Marley.
Nope.
They have no idea about us.
And the most famous one, Jim Jones. They all know of Jim Jones. Whenever a customer asks me where I'm from and they don't know where Guyana is, the first thing comes to my mind is my mouth is Jim Jones. Oh, that crazy guy from San Fran.
Right.
Well, maybe Jim Jones should have been a musician or a writer or an artist, but he would have definitely done a lot more good than what he did do. So we're going to break quickly. We'll be back in a second to talk about the state of the arts further. Yeah, in a bit.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP-TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP-TV today. HGP-TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Pick up the phone now and call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
HGPTV is looking for marketing and sales consultants. Are you confident with excellent presentation skills? Are you able to demonstrate your sales success? Do you want to work in media marketing or sales? If you are, we would like to speak to you. Please contact Ms. Carl Felix at carlfelix@hgptv.com. Please reply immediately.
Hello and back to Off Defense, where this week we're talking about the state of the arts in Guyana and further afield, as a matter of fact. We are joined again by Subraj Singh, Dominique Hunter, and J.L. Adams, or James.
J.L. Adams.
J.L. Adams, okay. That sounds, it has one of those kind of author-y sounding names, you know? So we've got two writers on either end, sandwiching the lone fine artist in our midst, and I'm representing the musicians and any other people we have represented here today, right? And the digital artists. So we were talking just now about a cultural lack of appreciation for creative output and the fact that other countries farther afield are really investing a lot more into their industries. And we're going to come to you. I thought you had a point before we went to break.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with regards to the appreciation of arts in Guyana, there are two areas we need to really focus on. And my colleagues mentioned both of them, education and politics. If the people are not taught to understand the importance of art, they will not appreciate it. And there's a great irony there, because the common man is where the inspiration for all artists really comes from. We write about the everyday people. We paint their stories. Our poetry is about their experiences. So I think there really is a great irony there. And there is no way in which the arts in Guyana can be appreciated if the importance of the arts are not taught in schools. And for that to happen, we need the government to take some sort of action. Also, I think it's very important to mention that, what was I going to say? I forgot.
It's all right, it could be writer's block.
It could be.
Read.
I forgot.
That's all right. Yeah. I forget sometimes. Just forgot what I was gonna say there. But no, you.
Oh, I remembered.
Go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the common man, people appreciate certain kinds of art. So, for example, if we go out into the villages, we'll see people, celebrating dance and their own rituals and their singing and song and their own art forms. So people in Guyana do appreciate art. There seems to be some sort of block with regards to certain kinds of art. So our folk art is appreciated, I think, but other mediums like fine art or literature, that's where we need to have some sort of breakthrough, I think.
And what do you guys think about, so I normally refer to what pertains in Guyana as being Dr. Lawyer syndrome. So Dr. Lawyer syndrome, and you can do a little running checklist yourself if you at home are wondering if you've succumbed to the dreaded Dr. Lawyer syndrome. Dr. Lawyer syndrome is a sort of it's also a vicious circle, I think. I'll explain that. But it is defined by parents or society which, when it thinks about gainful employment for its young people, for its youth, it thinks about, okay, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. There are many kids that go to school being told this, and we sort of have this thing as a cultural norm, a cultural phenomenon or a cultural norm, as it were, where like you referenced, art and anything creative is seen as a hobby. Yet, at the same time, Guyanese are massive consumers of creative content, but we buy this stuff from overseas. Yes. We consume visual arts in film, but we don't seem to know that fine artists are needed in the storyboard and in the concept and for creating those digital backdrops that we look at. We don't know that a writer, we must know these things. There's a whole credit roll at the end. That writers are needed for the scripts. So we consume art in this sort of way that is brought in and is sort of foreign. But our local art, we don't really give the same sort of respect. Is it that we have this vicious circle going on where culturally we don't appreciate the arts as much as we should, right? On one side of the fence, if I could, right? So on one side of the fence, we don't culturally appreciate art. On the other side, parents, we don't have copyright, like you said, Subraj, and then parents as well, they now don't want their kids to get involved in creative enterprise. And the vicious circle is, okay, well, why would you tell your kid to go get involved in creative arts if you look around you and you see no systems in place by the government, no copyright, no protection? If you see no system in place to protect your loved one, your kid, why would you tell them to go do something that was creative, even if they loved it? And there is that some sort of catch-22? Because I know myself, I know you guys know yourselves. Like you said earlier, sometimes you cannot help it. You just create. Yeah. We create things. It's just a part of who we are. So why, I don't know, finish my sentence with your own. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think everybody in the arts in Guyana have faced this whole same doctor-lawyer syndrome with their family. For example, when I was starting university, my parents forced me to study biology instead of literature, which is what I wanted to study, because they felt it would lead into me studying medicine. So I did biology for a year, failed everything except for my English courses. Yeah. Then at the end of the year, I quit, signed up for literature, and I was so scared. I did not tell my parents until the program had started. And then I went up and I was like, so I'm not doing biology anymore. And they were pissed. Understandably so, because like you said, their artists are not protected in any way. There aren't enough mechanisms around to convince someone that the artistic enterprise is somewhere...
It's viable.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can understand why parents want their kids to go into the sciences and law, but at the same time, we have to think about the fact that when kids are forced to do something that they don't want to, that child is basically going to be unhappy for the rest of his or her life. You're going to be working somewhere that you're not happy. You're not going to be able to express or to create, and that's terrifying.
It is. I'm sure if we did a poll or survey of artists in Guyana, we find we have so many stories in common. I was studying music. My parents decided I should be studying law. They pulled my funding. First I was supposed to be a doctor, then a lawyer, right? And you cannot, like you, focus. I cannot. You cannot be stuffed into a box. You just are who you are. Yeah. And I think parents should also understand that it is literally the rest of your child's life. You may envision them being a doctor, but would you want an unhappy, depressed doctor doing an operation on you? That's they're thinking like, oh, I could have been writing this book now. One wrong cut could be the last wrong cut. Or you really want an engineer building your bridge that's really composing sonatas in his head and, and thinking what sculpt she'd like to... No, you want a country full of people that are, enabled, that are realizing their full potential. What are you thinking, Dominique?
Well, my story is actually the opposite. My parents were actually very supportive. Well, maybe not very supportive. You gotta talk up
now. Like, we need you to talk now.
So rare.
Right, but good.
I think they were worried, but I'm kind of impulsive and I kind of do what I want to do. So they recognized early that, okay, this is something that she wants to do, let her do it. So I had the support from the get-go from them. But I did have relatives and friends that were like, oh, how is that, profitable, and how are you going to make money? Why? I thought you were done with this whole art thing. I thought it was just a phase. And so I've encountered those kinds of reactions. And even within the arts community, sometimes we can be so divisive among ourselves. You know, it's such a small community and still so divided. You know, you get a lot of sexist and racist comments. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it's been easy. You know, people like your work, not knowing who you are, they haven't seen you, but when they see you, like, oh, I was expecting a male, you know, an older person, somebody, you know, with more experience or something. Like, you're gonna discredit me and my work based on how I look because it didn't fit in
match your expectations.
Right. So I mean, while I haven't encountered a lot of opposition from my parents, you know, I've had a lot of encounters with people within the arts community and friends.
But tell us about that as well. I mean, we have both sides of the coin. Did it make a difference to you to have a more supportive family?
It definitely made it a lot easier because I have friends in the arts community that, you know, their parents were not in support of it at all, and they've punished severely for it, you know, very unhappy, you know, and it affects your work. It affects, because you would probably have been going down a certain trajectory, and because of the interruption, your parents saying, no, you can't do this, I'm not going to allow you to do it, you know, suddenly your work takes on a whole new meaning, you know. So I was lucky that I didn't have that to deal with. I'm grateful, extremely grateful for that. I studied abroad and they supported me. And it wasn't easy, but I had their support.
Fantastic. Any input here?
Yeah, I would just like to touch on what Dominique was talking about people, you know, being amazed by your work but not knowing who you are, and then whenever they see you, they're like, what? Because I've had similar experience whereby, you know, I sent in my resume after I came back in 2012 to live in Guyana. And then, you know, the resume was so impressive, they wanted to see me the next day. But then I showed up at the company, and when I went in, spoke to the CEO, and, you know, he was sitting, I remember, and he looked at me and was like, listen, the only place that's going to accept you with your hair like this is on the mall straining basket. So I'm like, what? You know, I'm a college graduate. I have an associate in business management. I've written several books. And this is what you're going to tell me? So, you know.
Yeah, but you know, we also have this thing in Guyana where people are really judgmental. Like,
yeah, it's a stigma.
My hair is, I haven't colored it, though I used to color it at one point in my life, right? But it's just growing just how it grows. Yeah. And people will tell me about my bird's nest or they're like, so I actually cultivate, I call it cultivating my fro. I cultivate my fro to challenge people, so people have to challenge their own perceptions. But yeah, that is true. We will judge a man for having funky hair, as you know, you should probably be at the mall or something. But we get conned by people in business suits every single day.
Every day.
The politicians all know that to con us, you just put a suit on, and just and we had a guy. We had a guy in the program a couple weeks ago. And he came, Mr. Rahaman. He came in his short pants. Hello to you if you're out there looking at the show. But he came in his short pants, and immediately after, maybe for the next week, people were telling me, oh, you had the man had short pants at your show. And I say, yeah, he had short pants on. Yeah, but you could go on TV with, yes, you can go on TV.
This is 2016.
Yeah,
this
you
is
can
the
go on TV with short pants. It's about what the man has to say. You need to stop judging
contribution
people.
To the human mind.
Yeah, so we got to go to a quick break. We'll be back in a second on Off Defense.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP TV today. HGP TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Pick up the phone now and call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
HGP TV is looking for marketing and sales consultants. Are you confident with excellent presentation skills? Are you able to demonstrate your sales success? Do you want to work in media marketing or sales? If you are, we would like to speak to you. Please contact Ms. Carl Felix at carlfelix@hgptv.com. Please reply immediately.
And we're back on Off Defense. Sometimes even I want to say On Defense. Maybe halfway through we may change the name to On Off Defense. It's just one of those things. So we're back in the studio with two writers and an artist and a musician. I'll be representing the musicians today. And we're discussing the state of the arts in Guyana. What enables and what disempowers, what could be better, what definitely needs to go. And overall, I think what needs to change for us to have a more positive environment for the Guyanese creative and the Guyanese creative of the future. So, Dominique, earlier you were talking about the fact that some of these programs are quite frankly outdated, right? Yep. So, as far as I know, for many courses there aren't any digital components, right? So, drawing is still very important, but okay, you learn to do some Photoshop or some like art schools in perhaps London or even Trinidad. You'll be focusing on some of that. Where writing is concerned, maybe a course that's looking at e-publishing or making an app out of your work, looking to add value. We're always talking about value-added products in Guyana. And so far, we limit our minds to thinking about chicken foot and mobby and tamarind ball and how we could package these things in a much better way, a more creative way, when actually creativity can also be packaged. What are some of the things? I'm sure all of us have been on Pinterest and we all surf the web, and in our little enclaves, in our minds as artists, when we see things that work in other countries, sometimes I know I want to bring it back to Guyana. And there are things that I look at and say, I wish we had that in Guyana. So what are some of the things that enable creatives, and especially in the fields that you operate in, that you've seen abroad, experience, that you think can't wait to bring that home? Or I wish Mr. Granger, President Granger, was looking at this right now, and or he was here with me in Barbados when you're there, and he could see this and bring it home to Guyana. What are some of those things?
For me, this one might not fall in the culture and arts category, but Sweden just actually imposed a law whereby, the public servants are only working 6 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So they're not getting any lunch or anything, but they're working right through. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because after you get that 12 o'clock lunch, what happens? You're tired, you want to sleep, you're not as productive.
You, my friend, are talking about the itis.
Yeah, you're not as
the fatigue.
Yeah, you're not as productive as you were prior to your lunch break. So just think about if you were to just work for that entire 6 hours without, there should be bathroom breaks and stuff like that, but without going and sit and eat and stuff like that, you would have more. You would have more time, and you would have more production.
Well, I guess what you're kind of talking about is the time we have to be creative, the time we have for creativity. And don't let me put words in your mouth, though, but that's what
production-wise
came into my head there.
Yeah, when you come back from lunch, you're tired and drained out and stuff like that.
So the main thing you would bring back to Guyana, right? Someone that's traveled and been involved in writing and the like. You would bring back no lunch?
Not no lunch necessarily, but you gotta look at the production value and how much more you can get done in that 6 hours of non-stop work.
So have you taken part in any writing workshops or incubators in the US while you've been there? Or
I'm self-driven, self-motivated.
Okay.
When I think about the state that my beloved country Guyana is in.
But if you're talking about accessibility at home and you have access to the training abroad, why not take it?
Because you don't need to spend all that money. Everything is on the internet. there's accessibility here in Guyana, but it's not presented. Listen, this is a technological era. What I can do in Dubai, you can do in Guyana. We have internet. It might not be
from driving the desert.
Yeah, whereby technology is concerned. I mean, we might have that 4G internet speed, but trust me, the information is out there.
We have 0.4G.
Everything that I've learned about creating books, about writing books, is what I went online and type in how to make a book cover, how to structure a book, and everything came up. I've written about 3 of my books right here in Guyana, and published them right here in Guyana. So the accessibility is there, but it's not presented. The old guardians that still think that they're in charge is not giving the youths the tools and necessary resources that they want. The people with the knowledge. I don't know if any of you guys know, but about a good 60 or 70% of our ministers are published authors.
Well, I didn't know that.
Our president has about 2 books. The education minister, he has about 2 books. Mr. Nagamutu got a couple of books. Many of them are published authors, and I don't know if
it's 60 or 70% of them.
Or it might be a little more or a little less, but I'm saying
that means we have a creative cabinet.
We do,
but should be thinking about
but
these
you got to
issues.
look at it. They might think, oh, this didn't work for me, and just cast it out instead of saying, what, it's a younger generation, it's a more advanced day and age. Let's see if we provide the necessary tools and resources to the kids. Let's see what can happen.
Okay, Dominique.
Well, I have a few things that I would add, but more importantly, I think we need a lot more artist-led initiatives. Smaller groups of creative people, not just artists separate from writers and separate from musicians. I think there needs to be a lot more collaborations. There needs to be space for creatives to be creative. We have no, outside of the National Gallery of Art, I mean, where can you go as a creative person outside of somebody's bottom house or somebody's living room? Where can you go to make art?
Like a studio.
Right. Or not even, I mean, it doesn't have to be an official studio per se, but I think there needs to be infrastructure in place for creative people.
Like I know there's studios to let to artists in some countries.
And then you also have to think about how you can make it accessible to the artist without charging an arm and a leg. There needs to be things like artist residencies, artist exchange programs within the university. You could do a semester abroad program. There are so many things that I have in my head that we can do that can all help, push the arts further and really reestablish our position, with regard to creative arts in the region. And it's just a shame that the people that they have, I don't know these people that they have in charge, but they're not thinking long term how you can benefit from these things and how you can engage with the region, with these international organizations to really push things forward. It would be so much easier rather than try to do it on your own. Reach out to people with the knowledge that have these established things already, and see how you can model it from their point of view.
Fantastic. And just Subraj, before we go to I will go to Subraj quickly when we come back from the break.
Yeah, I just think for me the single most important thing that we can do is simply to train the artists. Sure, there's a lot we can learn by ourselves by doing research and stuff like that, but to bring the arts in Guyana to the place where it needs to be, we need to bring classes and workshops and have mass gatherings of writers and painters, and just simply train them, offer them the education, teach them the techniques that they need in order to better themselves. There are opportunities in Guyana, like the Guyana Prize Award and the National Drama Festival and stuff, that reward artists, writers. But if the artists are not trained, they will never reach their true potential.
The pinnacle of their, yes.
Yeah, and these awards will in the end go to artists who maybe do not deserve them, or artists, or the awards may end because there will not be enough artists who reach that point where they their work can be rewarded. So I think training is the single most important thing that we need.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we go to a quick break and we'll be back in a minute to wrap up. I know you're eager to get your point in. You can dwell on it. Okay, back in a minute.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP-TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP-TV today. HGP-TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Pick up the phone now and call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
HGP TV is looking for marketing and sales consultants. Are you confident with excellent presentation skills? Are you able to demonstrate your sales success? Do you want to work in media marketing or sales? If you are, we would like to speak to you. Please contact Ms. Carl Felix at carlfelix@hgptv.com. Please reply immediately.
Welcome back to Off Defense. Welcome back on to Off. Yeah, well, we have writers in the studio today. But welcome back to Off Defense. I sometimes almost want to say on defense, as I said before the last break, but I always catch myself. But we're here in studio once again with Subraj Singh, writer, Guyana Prize winner, Walter Rodney
Award for Creative Writing.
Walter Rodney Award for Creative Writing, and Ms. Dominique Hunter, fine art graduate, and we've got GL Adams, writer as well, who seems to live halfway between Guyana and New York. So a little island in the sea, somewhere in the Atlantic, if we were to be literal there. But thank you once again for joining me to discuss the state of the arts. And we were talking about some of the things we probably all like to see brought back here, some best practice or and the like. Before I give any input, what were your thoughts?
No, I was just gonna add to what Ms. Dominique was talking about, whereby collaboration is concerned. I think that Guyanese people really don't know the importance of collaborating. You know, I've personally reached out to a lot of people here in Guyana, musicians, different creators, you know, different media personnels. And the first thing these people seem to throw at you is a prize. Now think about it, you know, you're a musician, I'm a writer. You have your fan base, I have my fan base. Don't you think that if we were to do some kind of collaboration, you would be increasing your network? But, you know, everybody just look at it as, you know what, I'm this, I'm that, let me throw the price. You wanna spend time on my platform, you have to pay me, and that's wrong, you know, that's wrong.
Yeah, we even have a situation, give me some thoughts on this. Guyana is one land where things are sort of configured the wrong way around. Like in the States, you go out, you say, okay, I have an excellent documentary or some program I want to go film and produce. And you go, you film, you produce it, or you want to make a series about something that's interesting. The TV station pays you
to do that
for your content. They pay you, they know most TV stations will have studios, they pay for content to be produced. The same content that we sort of pirate, the seasons and all the Game of Thrones, all those things have writers, artists, musicians, actors, the whole lot. We consume creativity every single day in Guyana. But in Guyana, maybe it is that we got accustomed to lawlessness. Because you mentioned the lack of copyright earlier. And maybe we don't ascribe value to creative output in Guyana because, let's be honest, we're so accustomed to stealing it or for taking it and not paying for it. When you go and buy a DVD for $100, I mean, even look at Giftland, big mall in Guyana, and it's got a huge store selling stolen material. It's like thief man shop. It's a huge shop in Giftland. But because we could go and get that pirated CD for $100, or we download stuff, it's just we have this sort of impression. There's a disconnect from reality that this stuff is free. You want an ebook, people go and try and download the ebook from somewhere or share the ebook. But you don't realize some writer had to sit down and could have spent a year on the manuscript that you just went and like, well, and we don't have the same, we don't treat physical objects in the same way. Like you wouldn't just go into a store where someone had a hand knitted sweater on sale and just pick it up, like download it from the clothes rack. You don't do that because then you get uploaded into jail, right? But what is it about people? What is it that allows us to persist with this sort of mentality in Guyana that it's for the taking? It doesn't really have that value. We take it. And do you think copyright would do enough to change this more than say the mindset of the average person on the street?
I think it's a step towards protecting, the material, the content, and the actual maker of the content. I don't necessarily know that it would change our mentality or people's mentalities. I think people have become so accustomed to just taking stuff that nobody wants to be held accountable for doing it. Nobody wants to say, well, okay, maybe I should actually pay this person for their material. So I'm not sure. I mean, guys, people are very resistant to change. We started cleaning up and everybody was up in arms. Why is the government spending so much money on cleaning?
Yeah, after years of saying the place so nasty.
After years of living in squalor.
Why are you cleaning so much?
Right, it's too much, it's excessive. Stop the cleaning. So I don't necessarily know how receptive they would be towards that, but I think it's a must, and it's such a shame that it hasn't been done already. Creative people are like, I don't know how to describe it, but the crux of the country, the whole culture is shaped by creative people.
How I normally say it is, and if you've never thought of creativity in this way, or cultural creative output, the creatives of a society are the collective mirror that we can hold up to ourselves and reflect on our own existence. It is a reflection of our realities and ourselves. Like Subraj said, we tell the stories through music, through art, through literature of the people around us, of the everyday man. And in a sense, if you've ever read the Khalil Gibran book, The Prophet, is a fantastic book of poetry I'd recommend to anyone. But the whole story in that book is sort of about this guy that goes and lives in a city for a long time, and before he goes away, the residents say, oh, you've lived among us, and you have this talent. You have a talent for writing, or he had a talent for understanding people. And they asked him, it is one of the best-selling poetry books ever, but throughout the book, they ask him to tell him about themselves, and he tells them about love and marriage and these things. But he reflects them, and that's the position of an artist. And I see where you're coming from with it being an important first step. I mean, I even have personal experience in Guyana, and it seems it doesn't matter what political parties in power or who is doing what. I've concluded is a Guyanese mentality. Yep. During elections time, there was a PPP ad on the TV, and I looked there, and there was some time-lapse footage I had shot that they took off the internet. It still had my name. Whoa. Still had my name on it. They tried to blur it. They cut it out to one. I never got any money for that video. They just gangstered it. So then the administration changed, right? And I was like, all right, what they're saying, vote for change. So I voted for change. I don't know. I just voted. Everybody voted. Yeah, everybody voted. The change that I got was like a sort of exchange where creative protection is considered, because the next, maybe a couple months later, the mayor and city council, they stole the same footage. They went, I just can't believe it. So they stole the same footage and no response from them either.
But what that points to is lack of a system that established establishes professional business practices within the arts community. I think it's important because people think, oh, you're teaching art, you just teach art. But you have to teach creative people how to be professional.
And ethics.
And it's a business, it literally is a business, and you have to teach the public how to respond to that. You know, you can't just make art and put it out there and just hope for the best. There are rules and guidelines and things that you have to follow. You can't just, you know, go into the gallery and take out a picture of somebody's work and all of a sudden it's yours and you want to steal it to do
and
your own thing.
Maybe trapped within this notion that you're speaking of here is a way for creativity to become more, to pay better to the people that are involved. Because if you at home, if you're a business person, and you understand that how it functions in Guyana is just really not, it's like a broken system.
Yes.
The reason people could go become photographers and buy expensive cameras in the States is because they could take those pictures, put them online, and every image is some sort of stock image. If you want a dog in Guyana, you go Google, download the dog, drop the dog in. That's not how it works. You normally have to go get copyright for that image to make sure that no one sees your brochure and sues you. But in Guyana, people actually want you to use stolen footage.
I have to say, having worked in an advertising agency before, that is how it's supposed to be done. And there are companies here that do that. They actually reach out to the person and, you know, they take the necessary steps to acquire the material. You know, they pay for it. It's just unfortunate that the persons that are within the government don't see it the same way, because these are private sector, you know, businesses that take these steps because they have to protect themselves. You know, they have to protect their business.
You literally get sued.
They understand the implications of just taking somebody's material. But unfortunately, you know, the wider public, they don't seem to.
Even our government, we were trying to, the last administration, trying to photocopy some textbooks. And look, we have so many photocopy shops around Guyana.
Yeah.
That literally, if there was any sort of investigation, like tons of people would go to jail because you're literally pirating material every day, building businesses out of it. I mean, is there any escape considering the proliferation, how long this has gone on, this sort of lawlessness where we take from creators? Creators are sort of Guyana's exploited, right? Your output is there for the taking. What were you thinking?
I just think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the art making process is not regarded as work. It's a job. We put ourselves into it. We labor day and night to create this thing. So when people come up to you and say, oh, you know, can I have this picture to put this photo to put somewhere, or when they ask you to, can you write this for me, but I don't have money to pay you, and stuff like that, it's insulting.
It is.
Because they don't recognize your work as work. It's like, it comes back to the whole thing where art is just seen as a hobby, but artists put their blood, their sweat, their tears into their work, and
many sleepless
they
nights.
need to be recognized as the creators of that work, and they need to gain something from it if the work is to be used by some second party.
The funny thing is that the second party would think, oh, I'm doing you a favor, you know, you're getting free publicity from this, so you should be grateful. But free publicity doesn't feed me, it doesn't pay my bills, you know. So
here's how I break that one down. So as a musician, right, and in Guyana, so most artists will find they have to diversify, right? If I were to just play music in Guyana, I play the sax, I would starve. I might be more hollow than the saxophone, right? But I've encountered people, especially when I moved back to Guyana, met a lot of people that tried to pay me with this amazing thing. Tell me if you ever heard it, Guyana. It's called exposure, right? So, come play at this party. We paid for the lights, paid for the staff, paid for the food, paid for the security, paid for the catering, paid for the tables from rent to tent and the tent. But come and do a free thing, and you can get exposure. But it can't buy any gas at the gas station. And exposure, try go to the greengrocers next time you go to the supermarket and fill up a whole basket of things. And when you get to the checkout, look that cashier in the eye and you say, I have a lot of exposure, right? Again, you'll be exposed to jail. So that's one thing you could do at home if you're a business owner or commissioning some sort of creative output, just don't insult people. In the same way you wouldn't go, you might haggle on a Belange, but art is not Belange, right? The Belange, the farmer left it, it grew. He didn't go and draw all the bits of the Belange. So don't discredit or don't prejudice yourself against artists by trying to beat down their price to zero, because they have to eat at the end of the day, just like everyone else. So I'm getting fierce symbols at this side there. It looks like some sort of warrior dance going on. No, not really. But so do we have another break, or are we wrapping up in this segment? So we're seems we're going to be wrapping up. So any final comments from you guys? Perhaps anything? No. If you only saw the producer's face when I was like, any final comments? Like, no, we don't have a lot of time. So I think you've said a lot of brilliant stuff today. Where can people find your work? I know you can find some of your work
at Nigel Supermarket.
And Austin's. Yeah. We've got the alphabet for Guyanese. The alphabet for Guyanese children. Yeah, I gotta say it in a more crazy way. You can't say the alphabet for Guyanese children. Right?
Volume 2.
The alphabet for Guyanese children, Volume 2. You should have put children.
60 for 1.
60 for 1. A shoe shining experience. Shine, shoe shine.
When faith happens.
When faith happens.
Yep.
Even with the hashtag.
100 for 1.
100 for 1. There's 60 for 1 and 100 for 1. Yes. It's like Guinness. 100 for 1. Is it taste somebody? No. Starbrook. This is an illustrated Starbrook by J.L. Adams, illustrated by Ian Puran, another Guyanese.
Very
collaboration in action. Love it. So you can get on Nigel's and Austin's, catch up with past episodes and future episodes of Off Defense on our Facebook and YouTube. And once again, thank you, you beautiful souls, for joining me in studio today.
Thanks.
Subraj Singh, Dominique Hunter, and GL Adams. Thank you so much, guys. That's it from us in the studio this week. So long.